We've all heard about the slave uprising and Saint-Domingue. We've got someone who took part in it. A great revolutionary leader. I give you Annette.
Born on a plantation around Saint-Domingue, Annette's arc in Castlevania is one of liberation. She's introduced as a powerful and fiercely independent revolutionary, with her backstory being a Haitian woman who escaped slavery and witnessed vampiric cruelty firsthand, which to no surprise subsequently shapes the way she sees the world and defines her decisions throughout the show. The show has this interesting ensemble feel, where multiple supporting characters are so well developed that it feels like there's no single protagonist driving everything forward, something the show shares in common with Arcane. They all contribute massively to the story, each bringing their own depth and complexity. Her arc moves beyond the strong character we see everywhere. Sure, she's introduced as someone who knows exactly what she's doing, but the show proceeds to give us a feel of her vulnerability, showing someone wrestling with loss and grief. Her relationship with her mother's memory becomes the emotional core of her story. Her mother was murdered by Vodou, the vampire slave master who owned the sugar plantation where Annette was born. Vodou represents everything vile about the system of oppression that shaped her early life, and her mother's death at his hands causes her to deviate from rational planning when it comes to battle, acting in a more passionate manner. Although we see her confront the weight of her anger throughout the show, the loss of Edouard, her closest friend who helped her during her escape from the plantation, proved to be a pathway to one of the most important aspects of her character, her hot-headedness. She wants results now, and considering her background, that urgency makes sense because, quite frankly, waiting cost her too much in the past. She won't wait anymore. Like Richter, Annette's mother was killed in front of her. It creates a bond between the two of them, though they occupy two very different positions. While Richter could run away, Annette couldn't, not immediately. This causes tension between the two as Annette continually tries to hold her ground. She initially sees Richter as a coward for fleeing his mother's killer, especially when she is running towards the same vampire who killed hers, meeting him head-on. By the end of Season 2, Richter and Annette are closer, understanding each other's trauma and positions in the world. Annette's connection with Richter is an important one. They are different in a lot of ways, yet similar in many others. He's of something she would normally hate, a noble bloodline, which is ironic considering she herself is a descendant of a god. Annette has the ability to manipulate both earth and iron, a powerful bit of symbolism when you think about it. Iron was the metal of chains and shackles, the very tool used to enslave her people. Now she bends it to her will. What once held her down is now her weapon. Her powers are also connected to the lower she works with, Ogun. He's associated with iron, blacksmithing and war, so her earth and metal-based abilities make sense. It's a nice touch and shows some thought went into her character. It's also a step up from how Vodou is usually shown in media, often as just random magic, with some tribal aesthetics thrown in. While we get to see a lot of Annette's cool powers and abilities in the first season, the second season is where we really see how high she can fly thanks to the dangers posed by the reborn Drolta and Sekhmet. As the season unfolds, Annette's connection to the spirit world begins to deepen. The line between the physical and the spiritual blurs. The ancestral world starts bleeding into her waking life, where she starts to see spirits who don't communicate plainly, but still manage to make it clear that their messages are urgent. She has to feel what they're trying to say and understand them through their actions. After suffering a crushing loss at the hands of Erzsébet Bathory, Annette and the rest are all left shaken. In that moment of doubt, she turns inward, retreating into the spirit realm, reaching for strength from those who came before her. Her bravery shines here once again because she faces Sekhmet's third soul, the healer, a powerful god, and eventually ends up becoming her vessel in the physical world.
Yes, she confessed it when we were braiding each other's hair and talking about you.
With the possibility of Annette and Richter being endgame, this could add a whole new layer to Richter's speaker bloodline. Richter comes from a speaker lineage, a culture known for passing down knowledge orally and bending the elements to their will. Annette, on the other hand, channels spiritual power through Vodou, drawing strength from the lower, ancestral spirits and the earth itself. Their descendant could inherit both the speaker intellect and magical foundation, and also Annette's deep spiritual and elemental connection to the lower and the land. But the most exciting thing is this could lead to the addition of two new elements to Richter's bloodline, earth and iron. The Belmonts got the ability to manipulate and bend ice, fire and lightning because of the union of Cypher Belnades, a speaker, and Trevor Belmont. Prior to that, Belmonts have had no history of being able to do anything of the sort. So now with the huge possibility of Annette and Richter being endgame, I think it's safe to say that descendants of Richter should be able to manipulate the speaker's elements as well as Annette's. Picture a Belmont with the ability to manipulate fire, ice, lightning, earth, and on top of that, metal. We're entering Avatar territory. Although if the said next generation grows up more immersed in Annette's voodoo practices, learning from the lower, channeling power through spirit and emotion, rather than the speaker's study and memory, they might start to lose touch with the speaker identity, considering their oral tradition. If we recall, at one point Cypher talks about a spell that had to be performed in a language that nobody speaks anymore, hinting at the loss of culture with time, which is one of the things that make the latter a possibility. One of the more controversial parts of Nocturne, if not the most controversial, is the fact that the Annette we're introduced to is a completely new and different character.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
She's a full departure from the classic character that we know. In Rondo of Blood, Annette was defined almost entirely by her relationship to Richter. She had no combat ability, no real character development, and no active role in the story beyond being someone who needed to be rescued. In contrast, Nocturne introduces an Annette who is a freedom fighter and magic wielder, whose actions impact and shape the direction of the entire story. We see that this new Annette doesn't exist just to flesh out Richter's character anymore. She's important to the story and the show itself. Thematically, this shift is important. The original Annette functioned within a very traditional video game trope, the damsel in distress. Nocturne's Annette breaks out of that box. She has her own personality. She's pissed, rightfully so. Her powers are deeply rooted in her history. This new version also shifts the dynamic between her and Richter. Instead of merely a romantic object, she's a partner who challenges him, holds him accountable, and at times leads the charge. Their relationship is built on mutual struggle and growth that transcends infatuation. From a narrative standpoint, the two Annettes serve completely different functions. That's pretty clear. One is reactive, while the other is proactive, taking power into her own hands. This reinvention reflects a broader trend in media, where legacy characters are being rebuilt to reflect the values and complexity that modern audiences expect. But of course, it was always going to be controversial. People don't always handle change well. Even though Nocturne's Annette is arguably the better, more developed character, the pushback is still there, and honestly, it's to be expected with race swap characters. And while we're talking about change, it's worth pointing out that the classic Annette from the games barely had a defined character to begin with. Her appearance changes across different titles, so in all honesty, there's no true canon version of her. What we do know is minimal. She's Richter's wife, sometimes a sister or mother figure to Maria, and she gets kidnapped because of her connection with Richter and the Belmonts. Almost everything about her, or everything that happens to her, is pretty much tied to Richter. Yes, she can be hard to warm up to, and obviously not everyone is going to like her, but that gives her plenty of room to grow. One of the better arguments presented by viewers who did not like the change is the fact that they could have just introduced Nocturne's Annette as a whole new character instead of changing the classic Annette, since it was pretty much a complete departure. It really does make sense, especially if you consider how much easier it would be for the writers, because they would have the power to do whatever they want with the character, and also wouldn't have to worry about the audience's instinctive pushback. Annette fits into a group of secondary characters whose stories are deeply intertwined with the central conflict of the show, similar to Zuko in Avatar or Sasuke in Naruto. Both characters have their own personal stories, which also happen to be completely intertwined with that of the main character. In other words, they may not be as central as the main character is to the show, but they remain integral to the story. With the first 2 seasons out of the way, something to look forward to will be the role she plays in the next season, or seasons. Although a Richter versus Olroc's showdown sounds tempting, I think the show will gear the main story towards Maria, Tira, Alucard and Old Man Coyote. It will be very interesting to see what role she plays and how she contributes to that, if she doesn't get a separate arc, which is potentially her, Edward and Richter going back to Haiti to continue the struggle for freedom as they talked about in the very end. I do believe there will be more than that to it if they go that direction, considering she's travelling there with Richter, the main character of the story. In the game Castlevania, the Dracula X Chronicles, the classic Annette at some point gets turned into a vampire, but now I doubt that role can be played by Annette, considering Terra was kind of derived from that version of her. All in all, Annette's story is only getting started, and it's clear she's going to play a huge role in wherever Nocturne goes next. But I'd like to hear how you personally feel about Annette. Leave your comments below, and as usual, I'll see you in the next one.
The sun is rising, devouring the darkness. It always does. This is the natural order.